Behind the silver shimmer of Hollywood's golden age, there were screams that never made it into the soundtracks. For every glittering smile under studio lights, there was a child crying behind a locked door. For every Oscar speech, a whispered question in the dark. Why wasn't I enough? The cameras captured beauty, but behind those perfect frames, fame had a cost. One paid not by the stars, but by the children who loved them. Hollywood called it legacy. They called it love. But for many, it was something else entirely. Control, obsession, and the slow breaking of innocence. These are the stories of parents who ruled with fear instead of affection. Icons who could make the world adore them, but never learned how to hold their own children with kindness. Some names you'll recognize instantly. Others you'll wish you hadn't. And yet, buried in the pain are lessons that still echo today. Reminders that fame can build empires or destroy families. So, before we step behind those studio gates, ask yourself one question. How much cruelty can hide behind perfection? If truth hidden beneath beauty fascinates you, stay, because what you're about to hear will forever change the way you see Hollywood's brightest stars. In the 1930s and 40s, Hollywood wasn't just an industry. It was a dream machine. The lights, the gowns, the smiles, all rehearsed, polished, rehearsed again. Perfection wasn't optional, it was law. Studios crafted stars the way jewelers cut diamonds, carving away flaws until only the shine remained. But that shine came with shadows. Behind every adored actor or beloved singer, there were homes built on fear. Mothers who saw children as investments, fathers who mistook silence for strength. Every bedtime story came with a script, every hug with conditions. Back then, image was everything. A scandal could end a career overnight, so control became survival. Even inside the family, the line between love and ownership blurred. And in a world obsessed with applause, tenderness rarely made the final cut fame. For many of these legends was an armor, gleaming on the outside, corroding within. But the truth always leaks through, because no amount of Oscars or headlines can drown out a child's memory of cruelty, and that's where our story begins, with the women who built their careers on grace and beauty, while breaking their children behind closed doors. Behind the image of perfect motherhood, some of Hollywood's brightest women hid their darkest performances. They didn't play monsters on screen, they became them at home. Joan Crawford. In the 1940s, she was untouchable, elegance incarnate, a goddess of control. But her daughter Christina saw something else. A tyrant in silk robes, wire hangers, spotless floors, punishments for invisible sins. Her childhood wasn't a home, it was a film set, one where love was just another prop. When Mommy Dearest came out in 1978, audiences gasped. Crawford denied everything, but her children didn't. To the world, she was the queen of glamour. To Christina, she was a woman who taught her that fear lasts longer than fame. Ethel Gum. Before Judy Garland was the voice of Somewhere Over the Rainbow, she was little Frances, a child too tired to dream. Her mother, Ethel, didn't see a daughter. She saw a business. Pills to stay awake, pills to sleep, scripts instead of lullabies. At 13, Judy's life already belonged to the studio. And to her mother's ambition, Ethel claimed she was protecting her child's career, but all she protected was profit. Judy once said, "My mother only loved me when I was working." That line still hurts more than any song she ever sang. Rose Hovick. Long before Broadway turned her madness into music, she dragged her daughters, Gypsy Rose Lee and June Havoc, through endless rehearsals and sleepless nights. Her obsession wasn't love, it was hunger. She wanted the spotlight, and if she couldn't have it, her daughters would. There's a story that she once pulled a gun on another performer for stealing her daughter's applause. Whether true or not, it feels believable. Because Rose lived like a woman who'd rather destroy her family than see them leave her behind three mothers. Three legends, each chasing perfection so fiercely that they lost what mattered most. They gave the world stars, but they left their children with scars. And while these women ruled with iron hands, another kind of parent haunted the other side of Hollywood. Men whose coldness could freeze even the warmest homes. They were the faces America trusted, calm, confident, heroic. But the applause outside their homes only made the silence inside louder. These men didn't need to scream. Their presence alone was enough to make their children tremble. Bing Crosby, the voice of Christmas, the man who sang the world into comfort during its darkest years. But at home, that warmth turned cold. His son said discipline ruled every hour. Belts, silence, humiliation. Gary Crosby, the eldest, wrote that his father never spoke love, only commands. Behind that golden microphone was a man who believed affection was weakness. Two of his sons would later take their own lives, the echo of a father's control that no song could soften. Henry Fonda. He never raised a hand, only a wall. To his children, Jane and Peter, he was a statue. Noble, unmoving, unreachable. Jane once said, "He could talk about art or politics for hours but never asked how I felt." He wasn't cruel, just absent, a kind of father whose silence leaves deeper bruises than anger ever could. When he finally let his guard down, it was too late. Old age had melted the ice. But decades of distance couldn't be undone. Charlie Chaplin, the man who made the world laugh through tears. But at home, the laughter stopped. He demanded perfection from his children, the same precision that ruled his films. They walked on eggshells around a genius who couldn't separate direction from domination. His eldest son once said, "He belonged to the world, not to us." And that's the tragedy. The greatest comedian alive, unable to make his own children smile. These fathers built their reputations on charm and mastery, but inside their homes, love was rationed, like a privilege to be earned. And for their children, approval became a lifetime performance. But some homes weren't ruled by anger or silence. They were run like businesses, where childhood itself was a product to be sold. Some parents didn't just want fame, they wanted to manufacture it. Their children weren't seen as souls to love, but as stories to sell. In Hollywood, talent could be inherited, but so could ambition. Ryan O'Neal, the golden boy of the 1970s, charming, magnetic, effortlessly loved. But at home, love became competition. When his daughter, Tatum O'Neal, won an Oscar at just 10 years old for Paper Moon, he didn't celebrate. He compared. Behind the father-daughter smiles was a rivalry sharper than applause. Tatum once said, "He didn't know how to love me, only how to win." Their relationship never recovered, two stars, side by side, blinded by the same spotlight. Mildred Turner. Before Hollywood sculpted Lana Turner into the sweater girl, she was just a teenager from Idaho. Her mother, Mildred, saw that beauty and smelled escape. She pushed Lana into the world of fame before she even understood what it meant. At 16, Lana was being escorted to parties meant for adults, her innocence traded for opportunity. Years later, she said, "I never had a childhood, only a career." Her mother's dreams came true, at the cost of her daughter's peace. Tippi Hedren. Grace, beauty, Hitchcock's muse. But when her own career faltered, she found a second chance, through her daughter, Melanie Griffith. She managed her, molded her, even controlled her. At 14, Melanie was already thrown into Hollywood's chaos. Too young, too fast. Tippi claimed it was love, but it felt more like redemption. The child became the mirror for a mother's broken dreams. In a town that worships youth, no bond is safe from ambition. Love gets rewritten into contracts. Affection becomes currency, and childhood disappears behind the camera flash. But not all pain in Hollywood came from control or greed. Some of it came from absence, from fathers who were ghosts long before they were gone. Some fathers didn't yell, didn't strike, didn't even stay. Their cruelty came in quieter forms, through absence, neglect, and the echo of doors that never opened again. Osgood Perkins, Broadway actor and father to Anthony Perkins, left behind a legacy of distance. He died when Anthony was only 5. But even before that, he was emotionally unreachable, a man too busy performing to play the role that mattered most. Anthony grew up in silence, chasing connection through characters rather than people. By the time he became Norman Bates, Hollywood thought he was acting. He wasn't. He was reliving a childhood where love was always locked behind the wrong door. Mickey Rooney, the eternal showman, a boy wonder who never stopped performing on camera. He was America's sweetheart. Off camera, he was gone. 9 children, 8 marriages, and not enough love to go around. His daughter Kelly said, "He loved the world, but not us. He belonged to audiences, not to family." Even his laughter carried exhaustion, a man chasing applause to fill the silence he'd created at home. Errol Flynn, the swashbuckling rogue, the laughing adventurer, the man every moviegoer wanted to be, but his charm was armor. To his children, he was a ghost who mocked more than he hugged. He'd joke about their looks, their weight, their worth, a man who measured affection in insults. His son, Sean Flynn, followed his path into danger, vanishing in Cambodia during the Vietnam War. Errol never lived to see it, yet his shadow lingered over the tragedy. It's a cruel inheritance. When absence teaches children that love is something you chase, not something you receive. And if fathers could wound with distance, some parents went even further, turning faith, secrecy, or obsession into something far more destructive. When love is warped by power, it stops being love at all. In Hollywood, even tenderness had a script. And sometimes the story ended in blood. Loretta Young and Clark Gable. To the public, they were glamorous co-stars in The Call of the Wild. Behind the set, a secret affair changed everything. Loretta became pregnant. Both were married, both terrified. The studio hid the scandal, the baby, and the truth. Months later, Loretta adopted her own daughter, Judy Lewis, pretending she wasn't her mother. For years, Judy saw the lie in every mirror. Her father's chin, her mother's silence. She once said, "I was the secret that shouldn't have existed." Hollywood's cruelty wasn't in what it did. It was in what it erased. Marvin Gaye Sr., a preacher who preached love and discipline in the same breath. His son, Marvin Gaye Jr., grew up under fists disguised as faith humiliation, beatings, the constant sting of judgment. When Marvin's music began to heal the world, his father saw only sin. In 1984, during an argument, he shot his son dead, the day before Marvin's 45th birthday. He later told reporters he was asking for it. The voice that once sang of mercy was silenced by the man who'd never learned it. Joe Jackson, the father of legends and of fear. He turned his children into the Jackson 5, rehearsing them until sunrise, until pain became rhythm. Michael remembered the belt hovering above his head while he sang. Joe called it discipline. But discipline without love is just punishment with better PR. Even as his children conquered the world, they carried his voice in their nightmares. Love turned to lies. Faith turned to murder. Ambition turned to fear. And still, the cycle didn't end. Because sometimes, the next generation repeated everything they swore they'd never become. And that's where our story turns, to the ones who inherited the pain and unknowingly passed it on. Some wounds don't end with one generation, they echo. Children grow up promising they'll never become like their parents. And somehow, the pain still finds a way through. Sean Connery, the man who defined strength on screen. 007, indestructible, untouchable. But to his son Jason, he was a wall that could not be climbed. Connery believed love meant toughness, that warmth made men weak. Jason tried to earn his father's respect the only way he knew how, by copying him. It didn't work. He later said, "My father taught me strength, but not warmth." By the time the old 007 softened, the distance had become permanent. Two men too proud to say, "I miss you." Lucille Ball, the queen of comedy. Laughter her crown, perfection her curse. She demanded excellence from everyone, even at home. Her daughter, Lucy Arnaz, said her mother rarely yelled. She just withdrew affection. Silence became punishment. Approval had to be earned, and the price was perfection. Behind every laugh track, there was tension you could almost feel. Lucille made the world happy. She just forgot to make home safe. Peter Sellers, a genius, unpredictable, magnetic, and utterly exhausting to love. He could make millions laugh, but not the people closest to him. His daughter, Victoria, said living with him was like walking on a stage with no script. One wrong line, and the scene exploded. He'd accuse, apologize, collapse, and repeat. Love as performance, forgiveness as applause. When he died, his children spent years trying to separate the man from the myth. They never quite could. Because when brilliance burns too bright, it tends to scorch everything nearby. Some inherited fortune, others fame, but all inherited the damage. The cycle of control, silence, and perfection never stopped. It just found new faces. And that brings us to today, where the same hunger for attention still feeds on innocence. Only now, the stage fits in a phone. We like to believe things are different now, that we've learned from the pain of the past, from the scandals, the silence, the stories of children who grew up in the shadows of their parents' fame. But look closer. The stage didn't disappear, it just moved online. Today, we have influencer families and reality show dynasties, where childhood isn't lived, it's filmed. Where birthdays are turned into thumbnails and tears are edited into content. Parents don't need studio contracts anymore. They have followers. Every smile, every meltdown, every moment is monetized. That's Hollywood's oldest ghost, the one still haunting our screens. Because fame doesn't end when the cameras stop. It lingers in the hearts it breaks, generation after generation. So maybe the next time we watch a smiling family on screen, or scroll past a perfect moment, we should remember the truth behind the glamour, that the spotlight doesn't always warm, sometimes it burns. If stories like this make you see fame differently, stay. Because the truth behind the shine is worth remembering. And if you'd like to keep this story going, just Click the one waiting on your screen. It's already calling your name.